A very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to the Tropical Stroke European Outlook. It is Saturday, the 23rd of August. Yes, it is dark in the background. I am recording this at approximately 4:20 a.m. So there is a kind of combination of the European Outlook, but also the Tropical Outlook, and it kind of goes quite nicely hand in hand. So we're going to get right into it then. We've got the global tropics look like this. Quiet in the Indian Ocean, we have got Tropical Storm 19 in the South China Sea. We've also got an invest area just off the south coast of Honshu, Japan. We've got three areas of interest in the Atlantic. Now, Hurricane Erin is no more, but we also have a system just north of the leewards that we're keeping an eye on, 90L, and also invest 99L in the main development region quite far to the south, if you notice here. Looking at NHC at the time of recording, now Erin is post-tropical. It is heading east-northeast at a pretty good clip. It is catching the jet stream. It's actually reshaping the jet stream actually over the North Atlantic, and that's going to create some interesting things as we head through the weekend and into next week with regards to the European pattern. More on that coming up shortly, but you can see here that we have still a hurricane strength storm system transition from warm core to cold core, typical baroclinic area of low pressure. And what happens is these systems weaken as a hurricane, re-strengthen as a baroclinic area of low pressure, moving in a direction that takes it up towards that kind of region, either west of the UK, south of Iceland. That is going to pump the area of high pressure over the UK and Ireland, presenting a fairly decent weekend with increased sunshine and temperatures for the bank holiday weekend here. Back to the other areas of interest in the Atlantic, we actually do have a 90% chance of development with this feature north of the leewards over the next 7 days. If we click on this, you can see here that we have got showers and thunderstorms have not become any better organised this evening in association with a trough of low pressure located a couple of 100 miles northeast of the northern Leeward Islands. Environmental conditions appear conducive for further development of this system, and a tropical storm is likely to form this weekend while it moves north-northwest and then northwards over the southwestern Atlantic. Interest in Bermuda should be monitoring the progress of the system, as watches and warnings could be required during the course of Saturday. Then we've got, basically that is it with it regards to the Atlantic basin. Now, looking at other factors to consider, now this feature that is highlighted at 90% may also take a similar track to Erin, and again influencing the beginning of meteorological autumn for the northwest of Europe here. So some interesting things to monitor as we go forward. Now, look at the ECMWF. This is the weekly mean tropical storm strike probability. So this is a period Monday the 25th through Monday the 1st of September, and the remnants of Erin is very much highlighted in this zone in the northeast Atlantic. We've got the system that's highlighted at 90%, very small probability of anything particularly major or significant taking place. We've got some areas of interest south of the Baja and the East Pacific, and also in the typical prone areas. Now, the global tropics at the moment is, in a sense, for the time of the year, relatively quiet, so to speak. And I'm not overly enthused by what I'm seeing based on a few parameters, including the Mount-Julian oscillation. We've got a lot of upward motion over the maritime continent. We've got subsidence over the Pacific, hence why things are relatively subdued. So we've obviously got the remnants of Erin now scooting off to the northeast, out of the playing field of the tropics at least. There's the area of interest here. You can see this, not a great deal of organisation, not looking particularly healthy. There appears to be a bit of a shared environment. We're also dealing with dusty air, dry air. And this feature here has actually become less of interest according to the latest information from NHC. We've got some more convection coming off Africa, but really nothing too exciting to speak about. Looking at the current storms then, let's have a look at, is there anything on that invest area? I wonder. No, there actually isn't. So let's skip on to the next one. And I want to show you the latest off the ECMWF. Now, let's click and refresh this here because this may be slightly out of date. So let's look at the 18Z run. Go back to the kind of current period. So there's the remnants of Erin. There's that feature just to the west of the Bermuda High. Well, it's actually more of a central eastern basin high pressure system at the moment. The Bermuda High appears to be somewhat non-existent, hence why we've got systems that are recurving around the core of the high is centered more towards the eastern side of the Atlantic as opposed to the west, allowing this open door for recurving systems. You can see here, this is Erin moving up towards that region west of the UK and Ireland, south of Greenland. 956 millibar low is not too shabby at all. You can see here the next feature running around the base of that high as well. What I think it's going to do is it's going to reinforce a trough that develops at the very end of the month, beginning of September. And what might happen is with the core of this high centered closer to the Azores, we've got the region extending into Iberia, and we've got the features running around this area of high pressure and into western areas of Europe. And that may set the tone for potentially more interesting things and more of a substantial change to what we've seen for the past several weeks here in Europe in terms of region perhaps being replaced more by a trough. We've had this long-term dry spell. I personally associate that with the La Nina, even hangover from the previous La Nina, but we're redeveloping that La Nina potentially as we head to deeper into the autumn and beginning of winter season. More on that in another day. But certainly the CMWF not overly enthused. Let's have a quick look at the AI model here of the ECMWF model. Skip back and see here. So Erin moving up to the northeast. There's that feature highlighted by NHC. You can see here that it actually joins up with a feature coming off the North American continent. And then all that weather runs around the top. We've got quite an active jet running across the North Atlantic and towards western areas of Europe. And I think what we're going to see is a trough establishing itself over western areas of Europe here. Now, notice here that the AI model is seeing a frontal boundary. We've got pretty cold air mass actually developing over the central and eastern United States through the next week or so. And the frontal system associated with that driving off the North American continent out over the warm waters of the Gulf Stream may try and see a spin-up developing on. The AI model is certainly picking up on that and then running up into New England and the Canadian Maritimes by the time we reach Thursday the 4th of September. Long way off, of course, so you obviously have to take that with a grain of salt. This is the upcoming week of the CFSV2 regarding the Manjulan oscillation. We've obviously got upward motion, maritime continent, kind of somewhat over the Indian Ocean, but also the Central Pacific. We've got subsidence, East Pacific, Americas, and the Atlantic Basin. But what's interesting here is that as we step into week 2, which takes us to the, I don't know why that's cutting off like that, but essentially end of week 1 of September, you can actually see the upward motion now starting to push eastwards towards the East Pacific and perhaps even the Caribbean and the Gulf. Now, really, it's been quite a quiet season overall in terms of, we've obviously had 5 named systems, including Erin, this stage in the season. But what's interesting is if we look at this model of Copernicus, this is the mean sea level pressure for the month of September. But if we look at the global view, you can see here that we've got, in terms of this is the Met Office model here at least, It's showing a lot of higher pressure over the subtropical Atlantic, but also through the tropical Atlantic. And that could act as a suppressed look in terms of the main development region. We've got a lot of upward motion Middle East through the Indian Ocean and into the maritime continent. So it's essentially you could argue that the model is picking out on subsidence over the Atlantic, rising motion over the Indian Ocean and the maritime continent here, and perhaps a suppressed look by this model for the Atlantic basin through the month of September, which is something to kind of pay close attention to. Let's have a quick look then at the ECMWF and see what it's showing for the month of September. And it's also quite interesting to pick out the fact that we've got this kind of ridge over Iberia, trough over Iceland. In terms of interest from a European point of view, we could be talking about more of a westerly component during the month of September. Look at this here. This is mean sea level pressure off the ECM for the September period. You've got the upward motion over the Indian Ocean maritime continent, subsidence potentially over the tropical Atlantic. And some of the models are indicating that we increase the area of subsidence over the Atlantic as we progress into the heart of September. And that really, with the fact that we've got 5 named systems so far, we're heading towards the month of September. Yes, September, October can be busy periods. We're heading into the heart of the hurricane season. But the fact that the modelling is suggesting above average pressure at the surface and also an MJO that may be more favourable for the Indian Ocean, more subsidence over the Atlantic. Look at this here. Upcoming 7 days, we've got suppression over the Atlantic. Very much the lid's coming off over the maritime continent. Play through this loop. You can see here that maybe towards the day 10 through 16, which is 31st of August through the first 7 days of September. Perhaps something opening up here over the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. So we'll wait and see what happens here, but nothing imminent in terms of anything major to speak about. Looking at Europe then, with all these systems riding around the top of that subtropical ridge, focused more over the Azores as opposed to Bermuda, the trough is looking like it's going to become more established. Yes, through this weekend, beginning of next week, higher pressure, the remnants of Erin to the west, high pressure sliding just to the east, allowing that open door to more warm air coming up from Iberia, France into the UK. So we're going to see temperatures possibly 27, 28 in the south of England, 24, 25, possibly a 26 in eastern portions of Scotland, Monday, for example. And then we're going to gradually start to see the weather changing, heights coming down and becoming much more unsettled. Now, this is the ECM model, Monday 25th through Monday the 1st of September. We've got this trough in place. Now, if we skip through into the following week, which is the first full week of meteorological autumn, look at this here. We've got low pressure extended from the Atlantic across Europe, including the UK and Ireland here. Looking at the precipitation anomalies, wetter than average through week 1 into week 2, which takes out to the end of week 1 of September. Wetter than average conditions showing up. And if we look at the temperature anomalies, warmer than average week 1, and then into week 2, we've got something less warm, perhaps even below average. France, Low Countries, Germany, up into the UK. It looks as if it's close to average. And the following week, it looks as if it's warmer than average. But nevertheless, it looks as if the trough is going to try to become somewhat more established as we step out of meteorological summer and begin meteorological autumn. And could it be that we have more of at the very least, the first half of September with more low pressure and more unsettled weather conditions, perhaps cooler conditions, but then we've got very, very warm waters surrounding the UK. Speaking of that, let's have a quick look and end with this. This is the sea surface temperature anomalies surrounding the UK here. A very warm North Atlantic overall, including the tropics. And so we've warmed things up quite considerably. There's the wake effect, the upwelling caused by Erin which is quite interesting here. There's your La Nina, especially focused over the central portion of the Pacific. More on that in tomorrow's winter thoughts. So yeah, it's looking rather interesting here. But this is a lot of fuel here when you've got this look of more of a trough trying to establish itself, especially from Atlantic across the UK into Europe. There may be increased moisture within the atmosphere when you've got the warmer than average water temperatures and lower than average pressure as we step into the first month of meteorological spring. So we will keep an eye on this going forward. Lots more to come this bank holiday weekend, so stay tuned, like and subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow with the early winter thoughts. Have a great Saturday evening. Bye-bye.